Good morning, everyone. I wanted to share with you guys something that I realized about NI and how whenever NI has an idea, it almost feels like the idea is inhabiting you as opposed to you coming up with an idea. The way that NE and SI comes up with ideas is it has a database of SI stored information internally in its head, in its brain. Because the way that SI works is it is introverted, subjective sensing, and it cares about depth over breadth. So introverted sensing, every time it comes up against, sensory experience that it believes to be important to them, or an experience that changed them or whatever, or really just any experience, that's why NE has so many random, their humor is so random. It's because it's mixing and jumbling all of their SI experiences in their mind. So the whole idea of brainstorming is very NE, to sit down on a page and sort of just throw things and be like, see what sticks. Let's move it all around. Let's move these SI parts together and see if we could create something new, a perspective that is new, by using a combination of these old SI things and mix it together. And so for NE and SI, coming up with an idea is a very active process. Or it might not feel active for them because they're always coming up with ideas. But pretty much, you may have noticed that ENFJs interrupt people a lot. I was thinking about that. I was talking to my friend on the phone, and I interrupt a lot. And I interrupt whenever I feel like the energy moves me to say something that I find important. And I know that is really douchey, and it seems really rude, and I recognize that. But I was thinking about why that is. And my friend, Crystal, you may know her, from my podcast, is an ENFP, and we started to talk about why is that? Because I always feel validated or justified whenever an idea comes and I just say it real quick and then I try and move on, and I was thinking about that, and I really do think that the reason that it's NJs, especially ENJs, or really anyone with NI and SE, I would say ENFJs and ENTJs are the most likely to sort of barrel through whatever you're saying, make a point, or not even realize, or interrupt you and expect you to stop talking. And I was like, why is that? Because that's kind of rude. And people have called me on it before, on some of the videos that Crystal and I have done, be like, if you're an FE Dom, then why do you keep interrupting people? And it's because without SI, I often forget what I'm about to say, and I very rarely think before I speak. Even when I'm making these videos, I have no idea what I'm about to say. It just comes through me. And that's how I feel like my intuition is. I'm not jumbling up a bunch of ideas or facts that I've seen and putting them together and brainstorming and creating. And the reason why I say NE is an active process is because that's what it is. It's extroverted intuition. You are engaging with it as an object. You are externally using your intuition. And with introverted intuition, it feels like it's just happening inside me. And it feels almost like I can't control it. And that's why a lot of SE users, you might feel like they're out of control, or you might feel like they're just going with the vibes or going with the motions or whatever you want to say. But whenever I have an idea, I want to say it immediately, which is sort of linked to SE, as said before. But for a few reasons. It's because I don't feel like I'm going to remember what I was about to say if I waited a few seconds, because NI doesn't store information in the same way that SI does. And you can look at Dario Nardi's research on this if you'd like. I'll admit I haven't done as much research on what his neuroscience, but there has been some preliminary neuroscience studies on this, and I expect it to continue. Check out Dario Nardi if you're curious about that. But NI doesn't store information in the brain in the same way, because NI prefers to sort of clear the mind so that it can interact in the SE with what's going on in front of it. And whenever you clear your mind and you're interacting with the SE, the present moment, the objective sensory experience, ideas flow through you, and you don't make the idea happen, it just happens. And that's why if you ask an NI user, how did you come up with that idea? They might just say, I don't know, I just thought of it. That's why it feels like a light bulb, because you aren't manufacturing it, the idea. You aren't orchestrating something that you think could work. It just happens. It's almost like the spirit moving through you. But anyway, ENJs, so ENFJs and ENTJs, they might interrupt you if they feel like this idea is just happening. And we view it as a moment in time and as an event, as an experience. Like, oh, I just got an idea. And okay, so I was talking to Crystal about this, an ENFP, and something she said that was very interesting is she said that if I would have said I had an idea, that she would have recognized that completely and not been mad. But what I did was I said, oh, I just thought of something. And she didn't know what that was referring to. And I'm like, well, isn't that obvious that I'm having an idea? And this lends me to another video that I'm going to make whenever I have time. I'm trying to space these out a little bit. But that TE, I'm just going to say this and I can explain it more later in a video, but that TE focuses on the content of what is said, and FE focuses on how it's said. And so, because I didn't say I had an idea, the fact, or I wasn't like saying that thought directly, it doesn't register to TE in the same way. But any FE user seeing someone go, oh, I just thought of something, would recognize that I was having an idea. So it seems almost irrelevant to say, but it's obvious to FE. And this is, one of the ways why FE and TE can get each other wrong. But pretty much, and I'm not saying that this is like correct of NI to do this. I'm just explaining how it happens, because I understand that whenever NI and SE just barrels through whatever the NE and SI user is saying, they can be really obnoxious and annoying, and it can make them seem really self-important and self-righteous and just lots of stuff that energy just doesn't sit well with NE. It's like, and I was talking to Crystal about this, and I was like, I would admit, because we were both journalists, I was like, I would bet that every time that I have interrupted a source by accident, or like been on the phone and like we couldn't hear each other, we were talking at the same time, every time that they said, oh, you go ahead, I would bet that they were an NI and SE user. And Crystal was like, well, aren't they just saying that to be nice? And I was like, well, I really do think that NI and SE trusts the flow of the moment. And SE and NI trusts that if someone felt the need to have this burst of energy all of a sudden, that is now the moment now. Like, SE goes with that moment. You aren't really in control of the moment. You can't really manufacture it. You can't really warp it the way that NE likes to warp reality. And I'm not trying to say that in a negative connotation, because there's nothing wrong necessarily with like warping your reality, but NE definitely is like a shapeshifter when it comes to perception, and you could be seeing things one way, seeing things the other way, and it's completely different. Someone can change one detail and all of a sudden they're a completely different person to you. That's, kind of how NE is. But yeah, SE, and really the point of this video that I'm saying is that NI, when it has an idea, that idea encompasses them. It almost feels like you're like on drugs or on ideas. It's an experience in the body that you can feel, and it's powerful. and it feels like it happens to you. And that's why an NI user might seem really wise with their ideas, because we often don't even really attach ourselves to the ideas the same way that NE does. Where if an NE user came up with an idea, they might want to trademark it to keep it safe in the SI, or something to sort of have ownership of it because it was an active process for them. And I mean, that's fair. If they took the time to brainstorm and they did a lot of thinking and cross-paralleling before they came up with the idea, then that's fine. But a lot of NI users, it feels like the idea I just experienced that idea, but it's anyone's to grab. And that's why, like a lot of like NI mystics or philosophers are saying the same damn thing over and over. Like, love is the answer, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, and it sounds, vague. It sounds like they're just repeating themselves, but that's because there is one truth. Or that's why, if you've noticed that NI users really like to say like cliches all the time, it's because some ideas hold the test of time, and some ideas are everyone's to be experienced. And all you have to do is tap into the extroverted sensing, notice your surroundings, and enjoy it and feel it, and just let that idea inhabit your brain for a moment before it passes by, and share it and jot it down if it's a good one, and experience it, because that idea is magical and it happened to you because you were paying attention to that idea. So anyway, thank you for watching this. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one or joining my Facebook group or anything like that, there are links below. And if you're interested in a typing session, I may or may not have links below for that. I'm still figuring that out. Thank you for watching and have a lovely day.